Welcome back everyone to episode 30 of What the Devil. Today, me and Marcel will be diving in to what's about to be the last week of the transfer window. There's a lot going on. United, we've just kicked off our season. 1-0 win over Fulham. Joshua Zirkzee, debut goal. We're going to get straight into it. And obviously, the hot topic at the moment is Scott McTominay. So there's so much. It's become a bit of like a saga at the moment, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's a bit like, is he staying? Is he going? Where's he going? Fulham have bid, rejected. Fulham have bid. There's been more bids. And then suddenly, Napoli. They're interested. And there's people saying, McTominay, he wants to stay. Ten Hag going, we want to keep Scott McTominay. And then now apparently he wants to go to Napoli. And Antonio Conte's come in and been like, you know what? You are my boy. I'm playing you every week. We don't know what Conte's actually said. But it seems like Conte's basically gone, you're going to be starting for us, for Napoli. You're not going to be starting at United, which we know he isn't. Right? He's going to be... We saw what he was like last season.
Bit part player.
But I'm very much of the opinion, I know this is kind of, there's a big divide in what the opinion is, but I'm of the opinion, I think we should sell him.
Yeah.
I've said this, as much as I like Scott McTominay, I do. Last season, obviously, he was fantastic and all of that. But I've always said this, is our most sellable high-value asset. He's approaching his prime, and I think the chance of him becoming more valuable than he is now is minimal. He's got a couple of years, 1 year, 2 years, maybe 2 years left on his contract. But if we can get 25 million for him, that frees up a lot of space, obviously, in the transfer market. And McTominay, in terms of what he brings to the team, I really don't think it's as irreplaceable as people will say it is. Like, I'll expand on that in a bit, but
I agree with everything you're saying. The box crashing can be, and the goals that come with the box crashing can be, replaced by somebody else, or a better combination of players, or somebody coming off the bench with a bit more quality in terms of, holistic midfield play. I agree with you. I mean, it's finally an end of an era, funny enough. That McFred situation, we was dragged, from manager after manager, season after season, it was McFred for a long period of time. We got rid of Fred, and we thought, okay, there was a situation where who should we get rid of? Which one would be better, to take us through to the next era? We're going to break up one of them. Is it going to be Scott? Is it going to be Fred? Happened to be Fred. And then, as time went on, we still realized, the technical level from Scott wasn't, the next kind of level required, especially in a possession-based game that we thought Ten Hag was going to bring. He's done a little bit different now with the transitions and stuff, but still, we require a bit better quality. And, I think we're going to a bit more specialist-type players in midfield. We want someone that's very good defensively and someone like Bruno that's very good offensively. But Scott doesn't give you a high level in comparison to the rest of the midfielders of either side of the game. So, like you said as well, pure profit. Happy that he'll be moving on and that it frees up the space in our squad to add another quality player in, I think. I agree with you. What I would say is, though, would you have taken the 30 million last season? Last season it was to West Ham for 30 million, I believe,
That is a hard question to answer, considering that we know what happened subsequently. But at the time, I did want us to take 30 million. So I can only say yes, if that makes sense. And the reason I feel that McTominay is much more a replaceable asset than people make it out to be is because all of our forwards were, at the end of the day, misfiring for large portions of last season. So we had Rasmus Højlund on 16 goals, Bruno on 15, Rashford on 8 or 10, Garnacho on 10, Anthony on about 3, and same with that goal, just in general goal involvement.
The drought,
it was lower across the front line, which I think partly was due to the fact that there was just so much going on in the team. There were injuries all the time, and no one was ever settled, and so we were just being bombarded by our opposition. And so I think, and I really think, that our whole front line are going to score more goals than they did last season. So, I think Garnacho will get more than 10. I think Rashford will get more than 10. I think Højlund, assuming he stays fit, will get at least 20. Bruno Fernandes, I think, can also get 15, 20 because pre-season signs and everything has shown that he's going to be playing much higher up. And if he got 15 goals, when at periods he was playing much deeper, Bruno, last campaign, if he's going to be much more forward, pushing forward, playing basically where him and Mount have as the front two. I'm
striker.
assuming that there'll be a striker and Bruno right behind them. He's going to get a lot more goal involvements. And then also, we've added another body to our attacking line in Xerxes.
Yeah.
So yes, we lost Anthony Martial, but I feel like we actually lost him about 2 years ago. He barely played last season.
Yeah.
So effectively, we've added, this is all on the assumption, obviously, that everyone stays fit, but we've added another body to our front line, meaning that we will score, I think, and as we've both said, a lot more goals this season.
Yeah.
And at the same time, our defence has improved a lot.
Yeah.
And so I think we will also concede a lot fewer goals.
Yeah.
So therefore, even if we don't score many more goals as last campaign, the fact we concede a lot fewer goals makes those goals more valuable. And so add more goals and also add less goals conceded. And someone like McTominay, who we needed to come off the bench and, save the game, get that goal, blah, 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 it's just not as needed.
Yeah. I mean, and that shows in the Fulham game as well. I mean, the chance creation, it was quite high. It's just the quality of finishing is not there. So we maybe need someone to shore up the game in the event of us not being able to score the chances that we are creating. Somebody that brings a bit more solidity to the team instead of, the up and down running and the box crashing. Defensively, he's not been brilliant. I remember last season against City when we brought him on. I can't remember who we took off in the midfield area. I think it might have been Amrabat because he had a poor first half, and then we brought Scott in there in the defensive midfield, and it was at Old Trafford as well, and it just looked completely headless at times as well from him. So we need somebody that has more stability in the defensive midfield area and a good partner for Kobe, because Cass has been brilliant. I mean, the game against Fulham, he was really, really good in moments as well. But you can see after 60, 70 minutes, it dies down a little bit.
This is the thing I was going to say about Casemiro is, I think I was a little too harsh initially at full time when I first watched the game.
What
thinking back at it, I thought, Casemiro did have good moments. And people I've seen online have made good points about Casemiro being one of the only other players in our squad alongside Bruno who can spot spaces really, really quickly. But he can't actually, half the time, actually get the ball there, is the issue. And Casemiro cannot do what he did first 6 minutes against Fulham, A, for 90 minutes, it seems, and B, for 50 games a season.
Facts.
Casemiro is staying. That's kind of that's what's happening now. It's a not a transfer failure, but it's just one that hasn't materialised. Right, and we just have to accept that. And he has his role. He will have his role. Like, let's say he maybe starts 20, 25 games, plays 35 games. I don't know. But there is a place for him in the squad, especially if he's maybe only playing once a week or playing in the Europa League games, or he comes in during the knockout phases, assuming we actually get there this time. There is a place for him in the squad, but no, I completely agree with you that we need someone new, and hopefully McTominay's sale, if that goes through, obviously helps fund that, because he seems to want to go to Napoli. Napoli seem to want him. We want 25 mil. I saw some things saying that Napoli kind of want a loan, but maybe loan with an obligation, blah, blah, blah. But I think we can push for a sale, and even if that means we have to take a little bit of a hit, maybe 22 million instead of 25, or 20 plus 5 in add-ons, I think it's worth it letting him go for the breathing space, because that brings in Ugarte.
Yeah, exactly.
It seems this is. I don't know too much about Ugarte. This is the thing.
Yeah.
I'm always the first to admit when I don't know a lot about signing. Same with Xerxes, I did not know a lot about him. Ligt, I did, because obviously he's been around for ages.
Yeah.
Yoro knew absolutely nothing, but I just banked on the fact that Real Madrid wanted him, and that's like a signature. Yeah. But Ugarte, from speaking to a few people who are a little more familiar with him, it sounds like he's a bit of a Herrera Rojo mentality hybrid.
Yes.
But better. And I really miss Ander Herrera.
Yeah.
I think universally, me, you, everyone misses Ander Herrera.
Agreed.
So to get someone like him, so I saw a quote from the other day, or at least it was circling the day, saying when you have the ball, it's a game. When you don't, it's a fight. I like that. And with Kobe Mainoo being against Fulham, by the way, he won more duels than anyone else
in
last
the team.
weekend.
I think it was like 5 or 6 or something like that.
No, 13.
Oh!
And Kobe Mainoo's showing that, obviously Kobe Mainoo's not a perfect player. There's there's rarely such thing. Yeah. But he's getting all his game together, and I think Ugarte, from what it sounds like, would be a very good partner for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. It looks like a defensive monster, you know, like that South American aggression, very, very good defensively. I've seen a couple games against Arsenal that he played a year ago, I think, or a couple of years back.
When he was at Sporting?
Yeah, when he was at Sporting. I've seen a couple of videos and clips from that, and it just looks like he's just very, very aggressive in the challenge and got a lot of energy, quick to close the space. And that's kind of what you want, really, because Casemiro has that ability. It just doesn't have the legs to do it as long. And, you know, and I just think Ugarte looks like somebody, it's like you said, like Ander Herrera, that would just bring that extra bit of quality and for longer spells in the game. So definitely very happy that, you know, we can bring him to the side. It's interesting what Toby's role will be now in the team, because he also seems like somebody that likes to retain the ball and has that defensive kind of attribute and side to his game as well. But having maybe Toby, Ugarte and Cass, I think that's good 3 players that can play that role, especially as you lose someone like Amrabat as well, who I think knew how to play Ten Hag 6. Maybe not particularly well or to the Premier League standard, but he knew how to do it.
He knew the fundamentals behind what Ten Hag wanted. Yeah, Collier's it's a bit of an interesting one. I think Collier should be treated as like an extra like luxury that we can choose to play if there's not a lot of pressure in a game. Like, so we've got 8 Europa League games now with this new mind-blowing league format that I do not understand. I've watched about 5 explainer videos. Don't get how it works, and I need to know how it works. I need to report on it. No ideas, but we'll find out. Yeah. But if, let's say, we're already through as the top seed, however that's going to work, I'm not sure, and we've got a game at home against Liga Warsaw, you know, you can play Toby Collier in that, but like I wouldn't want any kind of pressure or anything to be on him. I know he's 20 or 21, so he's a couple of years older than Mainu, and you want in the next year or so him to come through, and he was fantastic in pre-season. And he will get games. Ten Hag seems to really like him, and you can tell why Ten Hag really likes him. But I do kind of hope that we treat that as very much a, like, just play him if you can, and it's fine, but don't depend on him at all. Really.
Do you think then, because, you know, Ten Hag's always trying to bring through the next player or the next one to come through. He had a conversation with Toby at the end of last season. So you think it will be a bit more of a here we go minutes here and there, because Kobe had to play quite a lot of games last season and really stamped his kind of claim in the team, like, you have to play this kid. But so you think finally, and really I was hoping that the ambition would be to maybe give Kobe a bit of a rest this season, because he's played obviously in Europe as well, for the national team. Hopefully I was hoping that, you know, how similar to how kind of Pep kind of eased Phil Foden, you know, the player of the year last year, Premier League player of the year last year. He kind of eased them in early years, 22, 23, 24. It was just minutes here and there, come on, you know, 20 minutes, come on, 30 minutes. You know, Kobe has to starts games. He has to kind of start games. And I do think he's a level above Phil. Different positions, of course, but it's like, don't we want to be able to give younger players a bit of rest here and there?
No, I completely agree. I don't want to see Kobe starting more than 40 games. Honestly, I don't want to see most players start, bar maybe Onana, Bruno Fernandes, and
maybe Rashi, if he's on form.
Yeah, probably just Onana and Bruno Fernandes actually. I don't really want to see any players starting more than 40 games. Yeah, because I think the way that United seem to be coming together, it's that over the course of 2 or 3 players in each position, we have all the attributes needed. So if we're missing someone, it's fine because we have someone else who also has a very good different attribute who can slot into that position. Right. And bar the few core players that you want in a team over what is now a 55, 60 game season, assuming United go far. You know, I don't want to see all the players starting, because maybe 20 years ago, you did have players who started 95% of games, but they were only playing 40 games a season, maybe 50 at a push if you're getting far in one of the competitions. Now there is so much more football. There's an extra 2 Europa League games and all of that. I don't know if there's a round of 32 for Europa League or anything, or if there's a way you can bypass rounds in Europa League. But to me, that is really important, that players, and Toby Collier will therefore get the minutes needed. But also with Kobe, we also have people who can play instead of him, like, let's say, Mason Mount. Yeah. who I personally think has been really underrated in the last maybe. Okay, Mason Mount last year almost didn't play for us. Well, he didn't play for us basically. He must have started like 10 games or something.
I liked his game against
15,
Tottenham though.
20.
60 minutes against Tottenham.
He was great, and then he got injured. I think, and then he came off, and he didn't play for 2 months. But I do feel like the moment Mason Mount, he's playing really high up for us. He's basically like a striker with Bruno Fernandes in the opening 2 games, and he missed a chance against City, and he missed a chance against Fulham. Well, against City, he wasn't getting fast enough into the box, and there was a great cross from Ahmad, and he missed a chance against Fulham. But I've been so impressed with him. I feel like people are just kind of saying, oh, he'll drift out into the team again, like he'll be benched and then that'll be the end of it. But I really think he's being underappreciated at the moment about how much of a fantastic impact he's going to have, almost not solely, but because of how well he's played with Ahmad on the right-hand side. It's looked, they have such good chemistry, it seems. And I really think he's being underappreciated at the moment.
I agree. I think it's difficult because his key attribute for me, I think, is his pressing, similar to Bruno. I mean, the way that he presses from the front, the way that he can force turnovers, it's really important for the way Ten Hag plays. So I think that's maybe his biggest attribute. I think in that Fulham game, I guess he picked up a yellow card at one stage. I think Smith Rowe gets away from our 2 midfielders in there, but Fulham were playing a 3 in the midfield, so there's going to be times where an attacking midfielder gets away and finds space, and I think Casemiro was driving the ball and he loses it, or it might have been Kobe, and then Mason Mount sees the danger and gets in there, but fouls Smith Rowe and picks up a yellow. But just the way that he presses from the front line is really, really good to watch. He's very aggressive, always wins the ball, senses the danger. He's a good player. I just don't think, but it's a squad game. You just mentioned it now, Dylan, in terms of everyone will get the minutes to play throughout a season. And I think that's how we have to see things now going forward as Man United fans. It's a squad game, and if Ten Hag's able to rotate, the last 2 seasons gone, we had an issue with always thinking he's playing the strongest 11, all the time, and he's not giving players a chance to rotate. With Ineos coming in, I think that whole culture is going to change now, and we will see Mason Mount get minutes. And Ten Hag did have the Midas touch in the first season, able to make substitutions that changed the flow of the game and the course of the game. And he done that against Fulham as well brilliantly. Just credit to Ten Hag there. But Mason Mount in particular, I think, has a key role. Even hopefully playing in that midfield too. If we're sticking with the 4-2-2, one of those 2 midfielders in the 6th position, I think that's where he played against Spurs, funny enough, in that game where he gets injured. He can help with the build-up. He's dynamic. He's got energy. It's just the goals, like you're saying. He missed a chance. He doesn't have that striker's nous against City to connect with Ahmad, even though it was good build-up play. But, and then the chance missed off the dribble from Rashford. I think Rashford goes down a blind alley, but he's sensing it and picks it up, and a cuter finish, or striker, like Haaland, for example, clipped it over the striker, the goalkeeper in the game, the first game of the season. Similar kind of style finish would have been required there from Mason. But like you say, I think he's going underappreciated. He's got the biggest attribute for me again is pressing from the front line.
No, his pressing from the front line has been, what I like about our pressing is it's so coordinated now. Especially under Solskjaer, it was just like Bruno obviously was the one pressing from the front, but they were all just like running. They weren't pressing, they were just like running at full pelt at these players. And even last season and first season under Ten Hag, there were points where they were just like running and pressing and forwards, and it's like what's actually happening. But now it seems really coordinated. It might be the fact that because there's a front 4 now in the opening games, there's an extra man to press.
Are we playing a high line, Dylan? Are we, or do we do the mid block?
Attacking line?
Yeah, like is that front 4, like you said, they really group together.
It's a front 4, but what seems to happen is Rashford sometimes drops back slightly deeper into the midfield, because Rashford isn't someone I think that can press. He's someone like Bruno Fernandes, someone like Ahmad, someone like Mount. They're a bit smaller than Rashford. They're slighter, and so they have, I think, better engines to just run all day long, and that's what they do, and that's what they have, and even like Garnacho as well. Rashford is 6'2", like quite long-limbed and fast, but he's like very bursts of pace. He doesn't seem to be the kind of person who can just keep tick and tick and tick and tick and tick. I think Ten Hag's realising this and realising that like one of Rashford's, say, faults or deficiencies or whatever is he can't press for 90 minutes relentlessly against a fullback. I think what is happening is you've got Bruno and Mount or striker, and Xerxes, someone, Bruno and someone, very much pushing high forwards. Then you've got right wing and then left wing, let's say it's Rashford on the left. And then when they're pressing, Rashford tends to drop in a little bit to midfield and then they shift round slightly. And then it becomes more of a front three, but on the ball I think it's very much a front four.
Yeah.
I think that's the overall, I don't know, I mean, that's the idea that I can see.
Yeah, I know, I agree with it, and I just think it's deployed as a slight mid-block now. You know, before sometimes we were trying to force the turnovers and we're not allowing the opposition to even start the goal kicks. But I feel like we are allowing a bit more space to keep the lines a bit closer together. I don't know if that depends on personnel. I know, Harry Maguire all the way in the defensive line likes to drop automatically if the ball gets through the midfield lines, and that's why we're kind of deploying a mid-block. Let's see what happens if the Ligt comes in and he's a bit more greedy as a defender that likes to close the space. But it's just really interesting that, the way that they're pressing as a unit now as the front four, it like you said, it looks really good. It's just that when it goes into the midfield areas, I'm seeing now that the opposition's wide players are able to pick up the ball in that space, that left defensive mid or that right defensive mid space, because the two central midfielders are kind of occupied already with their midfielders. It's really interesting to see how Bruno adapts when the opposition's playing a fixed three, or the other player, like you said, Xerxes kind of plays like a 9.5. He doesn't really seem like a greedy number 9, and hopefully Ruud van Nistelrooy kind of teaches him that element of the game and allows him to be a bit more of a focal point. But it's a very adaptable shape. It really depends on the personnel that fits into the formation, the 4-2-4 that we're playing. But I do like to see how we're forcing the turnovers this season. It will be really interesting against Brighton, let's say, how Mount kind of adds himself into the way that we press and stuff, because Brighton don't like to go over the top. We kind of are happy to do it. Onana's been kind of, his passing's been a bit wayward, I would say, in that Fulham game. But Brighton are very much, they are not going to go long. So it was a great opportunity for someone like Mason Mount to be able to start forcing the turnovers and just to see how that front four kind of operate in the game against their defensive four.
On like kind of Brighton, Mount, Xerxes, all of this. Obviously Brighton, it's a new Brighton, new manager, all of that. But obviously they've still got most of their same players. There's a conversation to be had about who starts against Brighton in attack. Because Mount has been there, Xerxes came on and scored, and we like, it was really obvious and really quick to see that how in that 15 minutes Xerxes was playing the kind of what he's about. For his goal himself initially, he received the ball. He was basically playing as a number 10 before then turning around, passing it out to Garnacho, then getting himself in the box. So you think Mount should still start? So Xerxes scored his goal, yes, but keep him on the bench. Start Mount. Continue in the same position.
Dylan, that's such a hard question, and I'm glad that we're getting into this era now of the squad game kind of element. Like, a player's performing well, does Ten Hag still keep him for the next game, or does he try and still have a kind of settled team? Is he happy to rotate and change it a little bit? These are all questions that the manager would have to really think about. But then again, I think it's 4 subs this season, so you can still change it, if required after 60 minutes. And that's what he did do. Early substitutions is really good. But for me, I think to keep, a continuity to a degree, I think you might have to start Mount again and then maybe put Xerxes on again early, so after 60 minutes. But he has scored. You maybe want to keep him on and keep that momentum. But Mount created opportunities. He was, and in terms of the way that we want to press from the front, it's really important. Like, Mount's very, very good. It's like at pressing what's in front of him. So I would say maybe keep it the same. My only gripe would be in the defensive line, to maybe change something there. But it's going to be what feels like to me, like you said, they're still playing at elements of the Zerbi ball. So it's to a degree, it's going to be a 4-2-2 against a 4-2-2 or 4-4-2. Like the game feels like it's 4-4-2 against 4-4-2. So player for player and quality wise, we should be all right. But I think Mason Mount still has to start. Yeah.
Yeah, I see it as a kind of don't fix what ain't broke. Kind of scenario, because I think we all agree that against Fulham we could have scored 4 goals. We scored Xerxes' goal at the end, and there were points where we were on the ropes a tiny bit. But in the first half especially, and actually in both halves, we created some fantastic chances. Like we said, Mount's chance, Bruno Fernandes should have scored 2. Garnacho should have scored at the end, missed that open goal. Xerxes did score. That's obviously you don't score every chance, but that's 5 right there. I'd say at least 3 of those on a normal day, on a good day.
Had a couple headers.
Yeah, and
headers.
There was some from the free kicks.
Yeah,
he won I think every single header. Mate. Yeah, it was
Bruno delivery, Cass 3 headers and shots from distance as well. A couple distant shots.
I think one of them hit like Rosed, but that's Casemiro. That's been him for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I really think that in terms of the front 6, so to speak, so midfielders, forwards, it should be the same players.
Yeah,
I still think we shouldn't start Garnacho. I know he's scored against City, came on, got an assist against Fulham, and should have scored against Fulham. But I think for now, still start Rashford. For now. After the international break, we don't know. Against Liverpool, we don't know. Because Garnacho, it's just such a good option off the bench. I know it's a little bit of a waste, but he is such a good option off the bench. But I think nothing should change.
Has he? Because you did mention the connection between Mason Mount and Ahmad, but has Ahmad done enough? Maybe in comparison to Garnacho, like he's contributed a lot. Garnacho should have even got a goal as well in that game as well against Fulham.
Yeah,
but
that is a good question. I think we should still start Ahmad. Garnacho's been Garnacho in the way of like when he comes off the bench, he is just so explosive and he's so brilliant. But Ahmad, if you take into account the whole of the pre-season plus the opening game plus against Man City, Ahmad has been class, and Ahmad is who Garnacho has come on for, which I didn't quite agree with. I know you want Garnacho on the right for the moment, but I didn't really agree with the fact that Ahmad was the one to come off for him. I think Rashford should have been the one to come off for him, specifically against Fulham. But I think, I do think keep Ahmad for now. I think let Garnacho kind of claw his way into the team. Yeah. In the way that the reason he was obviously not in the team is just because he was at Copa America.
Yeah, he's played a lot of games.
But like that's just circumstances. That's what happens. In the same way, De Ligt's probably not going to start because he just hasn't been in the team while Maguire has.
Yeah.
Over pre-season. But I think do keep Ahmad in the team against Liverpool. Let's see what happens in this game against Liverpool. There might be some changes. There probably will be some changes. But for now, I reckon keep Ahmad.
Do you think that Ahmad could be someone to get to double figures goals and assists? I mean, we was talking of, I don't know if we off air anyway, we was talking about the goal count that we'll be looking at throughout the season that we'll be doing. It's obviously 1 goal right now. We got a target that we're looking at, but do you think he's someone that can maybe do double figures goals and assists? I feel like he's a very creative player.
As in 10 goals, 10 assists.
10 goals, that's a good number as well. 10 goals, 10 assists, because that's what I saw Sancho as being. And for me personally, I don't think Sancho will be able to contribute to that level this season because he won't get many minutes. But if he stays, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Definitely, mostly because he's a fantastic quality player. But Ahmad, I think that's his next target now. Already, it's thrust upon him that we need him to contribute that kind of level, 10 goals, 10 assists.
Yeah, to be fair, Ahmad's another man who we didn't mention before when I was talking about McTominay, saying, we've added a man to our front line in Xerxes. We've added 2.
Ahmad,
and then maybe you can even say 3 if Sancho stays, but that's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know about setting a target for Ahmad in the way of, let's say he only gets 7 goals and 9 assists. I'm not going to go, it's not 10 and 10, but I think he's an end product person. Ahmad is we've seen this. He both goals and assists. He is. So I think he definitely is a man I mean, he's in my FPL team. I brought him in at 5 million. I think he's an absolute bargain.
Okay, thank you for that.
It's only 5 mil.
Yeah.
Like for now, he's starting for us on our right wing.
Exactly. Yeah.
He's one of our best wingers. Anthony's not starting.
Yeah.
He is the short answer to your question.
Yeah.
He definitely is. He's a player who can start and should be involved in the goals because he's also like he wants to get in the box. It's against Fulham. It was so obvious. At any given moment he was desperate to be in that box, even if it was passing the ball in that way. He's desperate to have the ball in the box.
Yeah.
Whether that's him passing it in there, him crossing it in there, him dribbling in there, or him running into space so someone else can get in there. He was so determined to any given moment to get the ball in the box, and that's what you need from someone who has just end product vibes at the end of the day.
Potential penalty shout as well from him as well. What about the defensive line? What do you feel about Maguire? I know you was mentioning that obviously because the circumstances just dictates that Maguire will likely be more favoured than De Ligt at the moment, and he's been playing with the team longer, the pre-season. But what do you feel in terms of Maguire potentially starting ahead of De Ligt for this game and his performance against Fulham?
I think after Harry Maguire's performance against Fulham, you cannot not start him. He was like that was an old school Premier League centre-back he was, and he was perfect. You know when Andreas Pereira was running through and he had that perfect pass on, he didn't, and everyone was like, oh, Andreas Pereira, you messed up that pass, blah, blah, blah. I think Maguire should be given so much more credit for that one moment. Because Maguire was, I don't know how he did it, but he was like obviously facing with Pereira. He knew he had whoever it was on that side. And the exact moment that Pereira passed it, Maguire properly stuck his leg out to block the pass.
Yeah.
And Maguire read him like a book, having obviously played with him, but I don't know how much that would help. But I think as much as you want De Ligt to start, and De Ligt is one of our two starting centre-backs, realistically. Him and Martinez are the best pair. But just purely on merit, Maguire has to start against Brighton.
I feel like I'm reluctantly trying to disagree as best as I can, because I know that for what we want to do going forward, you want someone that can play on the halfway line and stuff. But it was just such a good performance, like you're saying, Dylan. And the way that he reads that play, he kind of delays the decision from Pereira to play the pass into the space. There's a time where he's shielding the ball from on-rushing, I think it's the on-rushing striker inside the box. His passing was really, his passing was really good in that game as well. But I just feel like that was against one striker against Fulham. Brighton are going to be playing man for man in their forward line, because they're going to most probably deploy two strikers, one being Danny Welbeck, the other one being João Pedro, and they're both a lot more dynamic, fast kind of players. It might be a bit of a challenge for Maguire, and I think De Ligt kind of still brings that kind of good, because even the aerial drills from Maguire was really good in this game.
This is what I mean. He was so good. They gave Xerxes man of the match, but I think that was that's what it was.
Yeah.
But like for me, obviously Maguire, I think as well.
Oh yeah.
Big shout out to him. He was class. But I do think Maguire was my man of the match, because as you said, the moment against Muniz as well, where like there's three people in the box and Maguire's there holding off everyone back like this, and then Arnold comes and collects it. He was just. That's like the Maguire that we paid 80 million for.
Yes.
5 years ago. We finally got there, but I get what you're saying. De Ligt, maybe if you were to kind of strip everything and go, okay, who do you want to start against Brighton? It's like the best option starting against Brighton is De Ligt and Martinez.
Yes.
But I still can't think, like, you can't not start him, because as well, if you don't start De Ligt, that kind of gives him a bit more breathing room. You can bring him on maybe after 60 minutes and stuff, and then obviously we do have the Liverpool game to think about, and that is another different discussion, who starts against Liverpool. But I think you can't have that discussion until we see what happens against Brighton. Because let's say Maguire absolutely stinks up the gaff, 2 own goals, horrid, you're not going to start him against Liverpool. But let's say he has another 10 out of 10 performance against Brighton, you really can't drop him to play against Liverpool. But over time, we have the 8 Europa League games. We have, after the international break, we've got Palace, Brentford and Southampton or something like that.
Another few more wins.
There's more games and good games for De Ligt to play. There's plenty of games for him to play.
Yeah.
I think it would be a bit of a rash decision to suddenly chuck him in against Brighton and bench Maguire after Maguire played so well.
I really, you're selling it to me very well, Dylan, and I agree. It's just I'm worried about, you know, man for man in the forward line, you know, and if we're gonna still play on the halfway line, someone like João Pedro, you know, really good first touch off the spin, and Danny Welbeck is just very energetic, always pressing, always looking to close the passing options against centre backs. Maguire's going to have a difficult game, but he showed his level. He really did show a good level against Fulham. And if we're going to keep him in the side for this season, which again, it doesn't look like he'll be sold, he's better than Lindelof. So, you know, we've got three kind of, and then once Euro comes in, we've got a competent group there of 4 centre-backs. So, like you're saying, plenty of games. And you have to, I think that precedent of playing players on merit, I think will bode well for the squad game.
Yeah,
kind of
this is another thing I was going to say, is that if you then drop him, it's a bit like, okay, it doesn't matter how well you're going to play. The new signings come in, so he's always going to start. Like, you know, like Ten Hag does play players on merit. We know this. Yeah. He likes Dalot, but when Wan-Bissaka was playing well, Ten Hag gave him his dues and gave him his flowers. And even after he left, Ten Hag was like saying, you know, Wan-Bissaka was good for us. He helped us, blah, blah, blah. There's other players like Kobbie Mainoo. He came in, played well. He's 18 years old. Ten Hag was like, no. Obviously, there was kind of like the thing of there was no one else to play anyway. But Mainoo came in, he played well, he stayed starting. Garnacho came in, played well, he stayed starting. Ten Hag does play players on merit, which I think is something that doesn't always happen these days. Yeah. Pep Guardiola. But I think he's got to start and he will start.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hoping that, you know, he has a really good performance, because then that's gonna, you know, get him ready for the Liverpool game, which will be a really important fixture. Another win, of course, because it's at Old Trafford. But, you know, it's going to be a very important, you know, game, especially against this. I feel like we kind of play similar to Brighton in a sense, because we have the similar kind of formation, and we're both trying to get to a stage where we're controlling games a lot more in terms of possession. Don't really know much about the manager though at Brighton, so I don't know if he's still trying to, you know, add on top of what the Zerbi ball was. But, you know, the Liverpool game, that's a really, really important game for us. So, you know, I'm hoping that Maguire does have a good game. He wears the Man United shirt, so even though I've, you know, previously criticised and said, look, I don't want him at the club, or, you know, he's surplus to requirements at times, and even Ten Hag's left him out, but once you're wearing the shirt and you're starting and you're performing well, I can only wish nothing but the best for you and to play well. So I'm really happy that he had that performance against Fulham, and I think he will do well against Brighton.
I was so surprised at Maguire's performance. I know we just touched on it, but he was not the player I expected at all. He was like our furthest forward player at points in the game. You just saw number 3 kind of popping up in and around the edge of Fulham's area. Yeah. He was awesome.
He knows how to do it really well. I said a couple of days ago that the 3-1-6 is dead, but it's like this 4-2-2 or this 4-2-4, it kind of converts into a 3-1-6 at times, and Casemiro drops in as part of the defensive 3. It's really adaptable, and like you said, Mazraoui really knows how to add himself into that forward line and into the midfield. Did. Yeah, it's really, really good. I think he's going to get tested massively though. He's against Mitoma against Brighton.
Yeah. Mitoma scored as well last week.
You know, he's a sharp player, Mitoma. I really like Mitoma. And then I think Dalot is going to get a really good kind of test for Mo Salah in the following week with Minter, because Minter is a new player from Brighton, but he's left-footed as well, heavily left-footed like Salah, likes to cut inside, very quick like Salah. So, you know, a left footer coming onto Dalot's stronger right foot, it will be interesting. But yeah, there's massive tests. The game is going to be very interesting.
Yeah, what I saw from Maguire a number of times was he would do this thing where, let's say the right centre back, who was Maguire against Fulham, Maguire would, whereas some of our other fullbacks may obviously then, if you're passing it around the back line, the right back will stay pretty close to the touchline. What Maguire kept doing is he kept running into midfield, taking his winger with him, which then would just leave
Ahmad
that pass straight to Ahmad. Yeah. And Maguire on his right foot passing to Ahmad on his right. It meant obviously Ahmad got the ball and it just immediately broke a line. Yeah. And then Maguire was then in midfield to add a third midfield option. You got Casemiro, Mazraoui and Cobby all in midfield for Ahmad to then play off and pass back to. Crazy. It was just, he seemed like, obviously he's played under Ten Hag before, he knows. And he seems he really does know. And yeah, it just, yeah, I was just a bit taken aback.
Yeah.
But I was like, this guy's solid. Because we were buying him and I was like, okay.
Not sure what
cool. I'm sure he's a good player. Not quite sure what to make of it.
Yeah.
But after that 80 minutes he played, he was passing, he also had this is the other thing that I really liked about him, was that he defended a cutback.
Yeah.
And as United fans are so scarred from cutbacks last season.
Yeah.
And then 7 minutes in, Traore, when he burst past Lissandro initially, I don't know if 7 minutes or whatever, but he burst past him, and I was like, it's another cutback.
Yeah,
we're done. And then out of nowhere, Maguire can fly in. I don't know who he's shot, he blocked, but he did.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the guy, he defended a cutback, and that's what none of our defenders could do last season. And it was beautiful to witness.
He's a really, really good player. And like you say, just the way you describe and how, you know, he moves into midfield and changes the dynamic of the shape and the formation of the team. He knows what he's doing in that side. And Delo, I think, even last season, you know, to a degree, our player of the season, he showed elements of being able to be really adaptable in that right back area and appeared in left wing at times and was able to score, you know, cracking shots from 25 yards against Sheffield, appearing in the 10 spaces. So we've got two really interesting right back options there. It's just that left back situation that we're still trying to figure out in the team. But if we can sell a couple of players, then, you know, maybe you get that sorted and a midfielder, that would be really good. But Maguire looks like a comfortable footballer.
Yeah. So are we saying in the end of the day, Brighton, same starting 11?
Yeah, has to be. Yeah, has to be, agree, has to be.
And in terms of goals, so this is something that Marcel and I were speaking about off air before, is we have a 100 goal target. Official 100 goal target for United this season. We want to see 100 goals.
Yeah.
Are we counting own goals? We're counting own goals.
Oh, we're counting own goals.
Yeah, we're counting own goals.
All goals count.
And we're one down. We've got 99 to go.
Yeah.
And we'll be making sure that every single week we are counting those
Tallying
goals
them up.
from 1 to 100 to the Premier League trophy.
Yeah.
And
I think it'll happen.
So finally, score predictions.
Brighton.
For
Brighton. I think it's going to be a very tight game. And we'll win it. We'll definitely win against Amex. We'll be collecting 3 points from there. 3-1, hopefully. We need to score lots of goals. I think we create a lot of good chances, quality chances. I'm going to say 3-1 because I do think they created a few chances as well. Their first game of the season, I think they scored 3 goals against Everton, maybe even 4. But 1 got disallowed towards the end. I think there was a red card in there as well. But 3-1.
I was actually going to say the same. 3-1.
Yeah.
I think we'll concede. Brighton are technically top of the league at the moment.
Yeah.
Obviously, they won 3-0 against, it was Everton.
But
Brighton, we tend to... Actually, I say that. We beat them 2-0. It's the same ref, which is a fun fact.
Okay.
Same ref who ref the 2-0 game, last game of the season last season against Brighton. Same ref, Craig Paulson. But I think 3-1.
Yeah.
I think, the goals we didn't score last week, we'll score this week.
Yes.
Last week, and we'll score this weekend. It is a 12:30 kickoff, and I'm always sceptical about 12:30 kickoffs.
Why does everyone say that? Oh, there's something strange about that.
Yeah, no, it's the kind of the phrase is never bet on the early kickoff because you never know what's going to happen. But obviously, you never know what's going to happen in any game. But okay, so both saying 3-1.
Yes.
The goal counter's going from 1 to 4.
Yes.
And thank you so much for watching this week. If you liked what we had to say, leave a like. Make sure to subscribe. If you didn't, let us know in the comments what you think. Remember to follow me on socials, United District, follow Marcel, follow United View, follow everyone. I hope we win 3-1. Well, I hope we win 6-0. But we think we're going to win 3-1 against Brighton.